Exciting news, everyone. My new book, I Wish I'd Quit Sooner, is now available for pre-order. Visit my website at drlaura.live or check out the show notes to reserve your copy today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Where Work Meets Life. I'm Dr. Laura, and today I'm here with Stacey Hanke, Hall of Fame speaker, influence skills expert, executive mentor, and author. We met through my dear mentor and friend, Cy Wakeman, and we were at the National Speakers Association convention in Arizona this summer, and I was immediately drawn to Stacey's authenticity, her warmth, combined with her amazing achievements as a business leader, a keynote speaker, and an author of several books. So the topic we're tackling today is elevating your influence to thrive in your career. And this episode is really for people at different stages of their career, including leaders and executives, but the content will apply to anyone. So a little more about Stacey. She is an international speaker. She's spoken all over the world, and she's one of the world's leading experts on executive presence, influence, and leadership communication. And communication is one of the absolute fundamentals of great leadership. She's worked with leaders in nearly 100 of the Fortune 500 companies, well-known brands like Microsoft, Google, American Express, Coca-Cola, Boeing, and FedEx. And she equips people with skills to command a room, earn trust, and be consistently received and respected, and the influential leaders that they intend to be. So Stacey has a wonderful book that we're going to talk about today that has come out called Influence Elevated. And welcome to the show, Stacey.
Oh, thank you. And it's so good to reconnect with you how many months later when we initially met. So I so appreciate you trusting me with your followers.
Well, I am just delighted. I know how busy you are. And I really think this topic of influence is an important one. And sometimes we think about influence as being for big, bold influencers, but I really think it can help anyone. So I want to talk, Stacey, a little bit more about you and how you got into this whole topic area.
I kind of tripped in it because it was shortly out of college. I was doing voiceovers for commercials for a radio station. I wanted to be the next one on TV and the Today Show and all that. Obviously, that did not work because here I am seated today. I realized really quickly when I recorded my first commercial, the power of how you really come across versus how you feel. Because a commercial that I tried to record the first time, Laura, it took me all day. And I thought, 30 minutes, I'll have the rest of the day off. That's all it will take me. I realized the power of communication. I then dropped by some larger corporations where I really was in that training role. And I was training on topics I should never have been training on. What I realized, though, if I was working with a leader to teach them customer service or team building, if they could not communicate clearly with their team, it didn't matter what they knew about my topic on team building. Through a couple of stops along the way before I started my company, I was always in a training role. And it always came down to how people show up in conversations, how they stay showed up, meaning their body language, their messaging, and then the message that they left behind. I realized really, really quickly that presentation skills, which was one of the jobs I had a number of years ago, I was taught to teach executives how to present on stages and in boardrooms and in front of investor meetings. I realized, well, if I just taught them how to do that skill set for that moment, what happens for every other interaction they have? That was the big turn in my career where I realized true influence, true executive presence really is what people are saying about you when you leave the room. It's really about how consistent you are or you're not in every conversation you're involved in, whether that's in your personal life or your professional life. And fast forward, that's where we sit today.
Wow. So that is just awesome. And it led to this book, your latest book, because you've written more than one, and it's called Influence Elevated. So what inspired you to write the book, and how has it impacted people so far?
Yeah, the inspiration behind it was once the pandemic hit and how quickly the world changed, how quickly we saw our work environment change. And I realized influence that we had been teaching before that time Now, because there were so many ways that we can connect with people, switch the coin. There's so many ways that our listeners are being distracted because we've created so much noise. I also realize we're more connected now than ever before, but yet we're more disconnected. That's what led to influence is more than just influence. If we want true influence consistently, we needed to elevate it. The book goes into our research of that 5 years of that pandemic, research around what our clients were struggling with, meaning executives in their personal and professional life, and decided we really need to put together a playbook on how do leaders, non-leaders, how do we manage this world that now is more than ever the capability to connect, but yet so disconnected? How are you being heard above all that noise?
Exactly. And there's so much noise out there. And I really think it's a challenge, isn't it, to communicate through all the social media platforms and then email and video and phone. And we're just constantly barraged with communications.
It is. And it's not, it's not even when I do my keynoting, I talk about all this noise and I have this slide with all these words that keep flying in. And it's words like email, politics, uncertainty, budget, in addition to all the communication formats. And the audience just kind of, gets stiff when they see it. And we joke about that's our world, which is making it even more important that influence is we have to be deliberate on how we show up consistently. And that takes work, that takes focus. And it also weeds out people very quickly, Laura. And I'm sure you see it in your field too. Who is willing to put in that type of discipline and who is not?
Absolutely. So is your book on Influence Elevated, is it meant for a corporate audience, professionals, leaders in particular? Who should read this book?
Yeah. Since everyone communicates, anyone could read it. Now, because our clientele primarily is the C-suite, the VP, the directors, that higher level leadership, it's really designed for them. However, I've had many of my clients say, I gave it to my spouse. I gave it to my significant other. I gave it to my college student, my high school daughter. And it comes back to, again, communication is the core to everything that we do, no matter what your role is, personally or professionally. We're communicating 24/7. We are under surveillance 24/7. And as much as we know all that to be true, what I'm really shocked at, rarely do people take a look at how they communicate. We go under the assumption, Laura, that we're all good communicators, which that may be fine. That's not where I help people, though. I really go to that next elevated level of how do you consistently communicate with influence Monday to Monday.
I love that Monday to Monday concept. So why Monday to Monday?
There's a whole story about it that I share in my keynotes. I grew up on a farm in central Wisconsin. And if any of your followers have any connection with a farm, you know that it's 24/7. And watching my mom and dad, watching them throughout the year, in order for them to have the finances that we needed in the fall, which came from our harvest season, it was their Monday to Monday, their consistency, their drive, their discipline. What they did Monday to Monday would always determine what our finances would look like at the end of the year. And when I got into corporate world, I realized that whether you're in corporate world and your association or an entrepreneur, it's the same concept. Every interaction we have, it will determine the success we have, the results we get, the people in our circle. It will determine the money in our pocket Monday to Monday. When I say Monday to Monday, I mean your influence, which is who you are. It doesn't take the weekends off. It's not about what we do some of the time that will elevate your influence, your executive presence. It's what you do all the time. I've worked with so many leaders, and the true differentiator is not their years of experience. It's not how smart they are. It's their level of being intentional on how they show up, how they communicate in every interaction, even in their personal life, Laura.
And saying the same things to different people. So being authentic in how they come across and who they are and what their values are, correct?
Yes. And that's a big topic now because a lot of our clients are asking us, well, what's your thought around AI And how does that positively or negatively impact your personal brand? What you just said is exactly what my team and I now talk about is AI is definitely your starting point. Let's say you're using it for an email. You can tell what's real and what's not. Because if you send me an AI generated message word for word, Laura, and then I meet you in person and the two don't match, you instantly are starting to chisel away the level of trust you have with me, your credibility, your confidence. Our messaging with leaders now who are using AI for performance reviews, using AI to put together their presentation to the investor meeting. That's a great starting point. I do it as well. There's still this level though of where is your personality being thrown in through your body language and your communication, your written word, to make sure your true authenticity comes into play. That's going to be a balancing for a lot of folks.
It really will, because as soon as we appear robotic, repetitive, or fake, that totally works against everything we're trying to achieve.
It's one of my clients said to me today, they go, how can we be real in a fake world?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're starting to see it, and you see it. I just saw a big news. I can't even remember who it was through, but they planted a person. She was a news broadcaster, but it was her whole AI image. And then when she came out of it to say that wasn't me, they did a study of how many people believed that was really her.
Fascinating.
So yeah, it brings in a whole nother caliber of what influence is and what it really takes to not use that authenticity.
So, what is your definition, Stacey, of influence?
Wanting you to ask that because just go on Instagram or TikTok. There's tons of confusion of what influence is and how to achieve it. We define it, my team and I. Your body language and your messaging, they need to be consistent Monday to Monday. That way, no one ever has to guess who's going to show up. And we all know that true consistency is you're doing what you say you're doing when no one's watching. The second part of that definition, the ability to move people to take action long after the conversation has occurred. Now, you and I both know this as entrepreneurs, that sometimes when we meet a client that we're selling to, pitching to, we may not, there's a good chance we don't make the sale in that first interaction. It's a series of interactions you have with that person that are consistent, because every interaction is an invitation. If you do it right, it's an invitation for the next conversation. The next conversation only comes if that listener feels like, I trust you. But how do you do that? It's going to be the experience they have with you, whether that's via Zoom or in person.
So, it's a feeling that they evoke in you through their nonverbals and their verbals, and consistency matters, basically.
Exactly. I mean, if we just put this into all of our personal lives, if you are looking for a new doctor, a new dentist, and they have the exact same credentials, it is mirror to mirror. When you talk to one versus the other, what do you think your decision's based on?
Trust.
Yeah. And where do you get the trust? We might not be able to put a finger on it, but you walk out of that conversation, you're like, they just had me trust them. I'll guarantee you it was the person that had communicated with empathy. They asked the right questions for you. They sat and listened. They let you do some of the talking versus them telling you, this is all about my practice. They made you feel good. And that's where my team and I come in. We talk about how do you do that through your body language and then the message you're carving for them, because it's not about you. I think that's another misperceived notion. If I am leading a meeting, it's my agenda. It's what I want them to do. Yeah, we've got to switch our mindset, really to grab the attention through the noise. That listener really needs to feel like it really is about me. This is all about me, not you.
You're serving them. You're a conduit to them being at their best, right? As a leader.
Exactly. And that takes a lot of mindful listening, not just listening. It's mindful, and you're really listening between the words as well as the why behind their words.
And that active listening skill set, I see it as something that's deficient in a lot of people and something that we're not really trained on as kids.
We're not. And a lot of it now, as I have my phone in my hand, how many times do you see this happening, Laura? Where we're on a podcast, but I am multitasking. I'm getting emails out. I'm sending some text messages. I'm looking at my emails over here. We see it all the time. That's suddenly a skill that is so much about muscle memory, being mindful in your listening. We're not even strengthening that skill anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I like to say, be here now. You're here now. You've got to be here now. And the whole online and remote world has led to so much multitasking.
I came across, it was some research out of the University of London. They were talking about multitasking. They said when you are multitasking, for example, we're talking here, then I quick take a note, then I catch up on an email, that constant back and forth, that your brain capacity during that multitasking time is similar to as if you never received sleep the night before. It's really a big deal.
Huge deal. So I did want to ask you about impact IQ, which is a concept in your book. And I love that concept, but I want to hear it from you. What do you mean by that? And why does it matter?
Yes, the impact IQ assessment, it's an assessment that identifies an individual's influence type. I am a big believer. If you go on a trip without any plans at all and you go to the airport and you're like, I will go there. Now, maybe some people do that, but it may not be as planned out. When we don't know our influence type, we are trying to lead, we are trying to influence others truly just by shooting darts at a dartboard in front of us that's not even there. Like any assessment tool, there is not a right or wrong with the results you get from our assessment tool. What it helps you identify is what's your type. Are you more leader focused? Are you more team focused, individual focused? And in the book, after you take the assessment, it scores you out. It tells you what your influence type is, and then it explains what the type is. Based on the type lore, it will share what's the challenge of that type, what's the strength, and what's really your focus when it comes to influence. Before we have individuals take, so if I'm coaching someone, I have them take that assessment tool. Before they take that tool, I have them answer the question, when it comes to influence, what do you want? And it's a question where a lot of executives will really struggle because they simply haven't thought about it before. After they've identified what they want, they take the assessment. If those two are passing in the night, if they're not even clearly remotely being similar, that tells us, wow, how you actually are influencing compared to what you want, we've got to balance that out. If they do balance out, then we really focus on, well, let's elevate those strengths. Let's elevate those strengths that you really have to make sure that what you want when it comes to influence, it's always there. Again, I come back to consistency.
So give us a couple of examples of the influence types and what some of the differences might be, Stacey.
Yeah, I am looking down at my book because I still need to cheat a little bit. There are 6 types. I won't give you all examples. You can look at the book or you can go online. It's also complimentary on our website. But you've got like an inspiring influence type. So one of their strengths is they're more of a future forward mindset, right? So they're always going to be thinking about being proactive. What can we do to get in front of AI, for example? The challenge, it can be all about the leader's vision, not the company's. Their focus is very employee focused, but it is the leader's initiative on what's really important for them. So that's one style. I'm trying to see if I can get something totally altruistic is another influence type. So their strength, they focus on team development, individual development. That's their strength. Their challenge, though, the team is usually more connected to the leader than the organization, right? So you can see there's a little bit of gap there. The focus, the obvious, is employee focused. There's not one right way or the other. What I encourage anyone that might be a people leader or even a significant other, and you want to, take it with your spouse, your partner, take it first. And then a lot of our leaders will ask their teams to take it. So you can just see where you're in line. Because if you're my team member, Laura, and you are employee focused, but I'm leader focused, or I'm just really focused on the company's goals, you can see how the two of us can constantly wheel each other in and balance each other out.
Totally. I can see that 100%. And misunderstanding the different types and misaligning.
Misaligning.
And I could see the CEO of a company being a certain type and maybe expecting their direct reports to be the same, but they might go at it a different way based on personality, values, beliefs.
And a lot of leaders that we've coached that have taken the assessment, they're like, they've never taken one like that. They've never considered there is an influence type. The assessment provides clarity. And I really believe that once you have clarity and focus, then you can start developing and elevating your influence.
Fantastic. And with the first type you described on inspiring and being future focused, that's definitely me. I'm always thinking ahead and thinking about the problems this world of work is facing and how to address them. And I speak a lot on the media, the social media, etc. And my new book coming out about toxic leadership, it's leading to a lot of interesting questions and debates and things. And for me, it's just about speaking from the heart, speaking the truth, and evidence-based. And if it's not evidence-based, saying this is my opinion or this is anecdotal and here's what I see. And saying things that won't come back to haunt me because they're the truth, my truth, basically.
And you can see how that would help. Like if you know that you are always future focused, which that's what I am as well. I have team members make up all these different influence types, and they'll pull me in to say, well, but before we can go there and create a whole strategy around it, we got to take one step back and look at how does that strategy for the future focus, how does it impact what we're doing right now? How does it impact our current clients?
Exactly. They have to rein us in a bit, right?
That's right. Yes, exactly.
Same here. I'm always like, idea. No, wait a minute, Laura. So it's also about execution.
It is.
So I do a lot on toxic leadership. So when we talk about influence, a toxic leader can actually influence in a darker way. So they can influence their higher ups to believe that they're an awesome, amazing leader. Meanwhile, their direct reports are being tortured, basically, abused. So abuse, bullying, harassment, gaslighting, things like that. So have you come across much of that when it comes to the dark side of influence, perhaps?
I have some. And what I think the danger, it always backfires. Because it comes back to us talking about being consistent Monday to Monday. And I've seen it. I've seen one of my favorite stories. This was a couple of years ago. A VP of sales had contacted me asking me to help. When I dug a little deeper, he had met his team the beginning of every month. They meet in person to talk about the sales strategy for the month. He was late running to the meeting. He's outside the conference room where they are waiting for him, and they overheard someone say, I wonder which Laura will show up today, right? Talking about him. And people will see it because as a leader, I think especially in any position that you're in, you're always under surveillance 24/7. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect. I'm just recommending be consistent. How you show up on a Monday better be consistent with how you show up on a Tuesday, whether it's virtual or in person. How you show up to the client that you want to put on a good face for, is that different from what you're doing with your teams? It will backfire. Not only that, how long can you sustain that? When we work with someone around consistent influence, we talk about if how you communicate at home should be a reflection of how you communicate at work, vice versa. Because otherwise you're turning the faucet on and off. How long can you sustain that? I tie it to back in my younger years, I was a big runner, and my track coach would always say to me, you will win the race during practice. And I hate it when he said it because he would push us so hard in practice. He was always right. Now, looking forward where I am today, I get what he was saying. It's what we do Monday to Monday that's going to have the greatest payoff for anyone when you go into a high stakes situation. And I know we define that all differently. But we just need to think about, even like an athlete, how they perform is how they're practicing. The good news when it comes to elevating our influence, our executive presence, every conversation you have is really an opportunity for you to practice.
And toxic bosses, from my research, are the opposite of that. They're highly unpredictable and people never know what to expect. So then people walk on eggshells and it's so stressful walking on eggshells.
You don't know. You don't know who's going to show up. What are they going to say that day?
It's really, it causes a lot of stress and eventually burnout if you have to navigate that for a period of time.
Right.
What advice do you have for people to elevate their influence, to stand out in their work and their leadership? So what maybe 3 pieces of advice stand out from your book?
I think the very first step is you have to be very clear on what you want. And that's that question of, when it comes to influence, what do I want? Second is probably what your listeners don't want to hear. You need to start seeing yourself through the eyes and ears of your listeners. How do you do that? Record yourself. And it's so easy to do, whether you're on a Zoom call, record it, or just take your phone. I do it frequently, and I'll take my phone, record myself. I'll set it below my virtual camera because I can give you advice. If you're not seeing yourself and hearing yourself through the eyes and ears of your listeners, there's a good chance you're going off of your feeling versus what reality states. Hands down. And I'll guarantee you, when you watch, listen, one or the other, or both, you will instantly see what is working for you, what's not. Is it in line with what you really want? And from there, now you've got focus, you've got clarity on where to go. The third, there are literally 10 skills that I teach. Think body language. If I could pick the top 2 that are the biggest challenges for people: lack of brevity. We say too much. We have a conversation with ourselves versus whoever's in front of us. And number 2, the big question is always, how do you build trust through your eyes? You and I were talking earlier, we see a lot of this where I'm having a conversation with my phone while I'm trying to talk to you. We are so disconnected because we're never looking at people consistently with our eyes. We call it, here in my company, we call it eye connection. It is the only skill that conveys trust. But before you can even work on trust and brevity, I really do believe you need to see yourself, listen to how you sound versus how you think you sound.
I think you're so bang on. Brevity is a missing art these days, and listening is the other one. And the 2 go hand in hand, because the more you scale back the number of words, the more you open space to listen, right? And reflect.
It's saying what needs to be said and then giving your listener space to process.
And not interrupting. I know it's hard on these things. I find myself sometimes I interrupt and it's just, that politeness, pause and jump in. But I think there's a lot of interrupting that goes on out there. Do you see a lot of that?
I do. And I'm working on it as well. That's the feedback I get from my family, which tells me they're the best people to give me feedback. It is. It's with the whole virtual platform. Again, I did not know I did it until I watched my playback, until I asked my family, who will always tell you the truth, when I asked them for feedback, and I've realized, wow, I do it.
And it's hard when you do it. And I had feedback from my team. I always juggle a lot. And I had feedback that sometimes it appears like my mind's elsewhere, right? And I thought, oh my goodness, that's exactly how I don't want to be coming across. But you can, even when you're looking and listening, your mind can be wandering. And I think it's really important to scale that back and bring that back into focus.
It's such powerful feedback that you have a team that trusts is there. That's a big sign of trust, that they can give you honest feedback. And the feedback I'm not talking about, Laura, is, no, you did a good job. That was good. There's absolutely nothing you can do with that. That's a big topic. We get a lot of our clients recently in the last couple of months asking, teach our teams how to give feedback. Teach our teams how to accept feedback. Now doesn't that sound common sense? Again, it's been a skill set that's been out there forever. if no one's ever giving you how-tos, you just watch everyone else that might be doing it incorrectly as well, and then you start replicating it. Lo and behold, now you are creating a bad habit of ineffective feedback.
Exactly. Feedback is such a gift, and we do a lot of 360 feedbacks with leaders, and that is a gift. It's hard to receive at first, but it's such a gift, and that's where I got that feedback. We went through 360s with our leadership team last year because we got to practice what we preach, right?
I think that's another big part of trust. I do see gaps when you're asking about toxic leaders. I've seen gaps where I'll watch a leader in the meeting with their team talking about, in this case, feedback. It's really important to get feedback, yet they're the ones that won't accept it. Oh, here's even a better one. I frequently hear a leader say to me, how do I get people to not multitask when we're in meetings together, whether it's virtual or in person? Well, then I see them in a meeting, and who do you think's multitasking? I see how you behave is how people are going to respond.
And that's hypocrisy, like being hypocritical. That totally erodes trust and respect.
Yet that's probably the one thing right now, with all the uncertainty going on in the world, it's the one thing that we're all certain of is our development. We have control over that. And to some degree, how we behave, which is going to determine our personal brand and the reputation that we create in the eyes of everyone else.
Yeah, you're bang on, Stacey. It's how we act amidst all the chaos. Do you walk through the chaos with grace and authenticity and truth, or do you walk through it with stress and letting your emotions take over and the fear takes over, and then you say things blindly and regret saying them?
True, very true.
I wanted to ask about work-life wellness because my podcast is about the intersection of work and life, and you're such a busy speaker and business leader and author. How do you keep your work-life balance or work-life wellness in check?
Thank you for saying wellness, because balance, I have no idea. Wellness, I am so strict with. I have a very tight morning schedule, meaning I have boundaries around it. No one ever touches that. And then I have boundaries around my evening. So I literally have bookmarks where it is only my time in the morning before, 8 a.m., before it starts getting out of hand sometimes. And then my evening, I have a very strict evening routine to help me calm down so that I sleep. I'm like a rock star sleeper. And I really do believe it's what I have bookend. Someone was just asking me this other day, Laura, I know you can appreciate this. How do you do it when you're on the road? I am really strict with my eating habits, my workout routines. When do I go to bed, especially when I'm on different time zones? Because I'm usually in one night and out the next day. I'm not there long enough to adjust to the time zone. And I really stay loyal to that because I believe, especially the work I do, if I am talking executive presence and influence, I do believe a big part of that is your personal brand. I know that I cannot do this work. I cannot talk about executive presence if to some degree I don't replicate what that looks like. And I'm not saying people have to, be my size or they have to follow my routine. I do believe no matter what walk of life we're in is taking care of ourselves because no one's ever going to do it. And how well you take care of yourself is a reflection of how you show up for others, how you take care of whoever you need to take care of.
Absolutely. And I think in this day and age, there's a lot of stress and uncertainty. It's more important than ever to, I say, put on your oxygen mask, take care of your well-being so you can show up the way you want to be. And that's all part of influence. It all connects, doesn't it?
It really is.
So my final question, Stacey, is one wish you have for a better world when it comes to the state of people at work.
Just wish we could come back to being kind and showing respect. It's such a common sense. I always think of my dad. My dad, still to this day, he always said, "You just be kind to everyone because, A, why wouldn't you? And you don't know what they've got going on in their world." And then I think it's more respect. Respect when I say, knowing that you share this space on this earth with a lot of people, that it's not just you walking down the street with your head down on the phone, not paying attention, to everyone that's passing you by. I live in a big city, Chicago, and my husband and I at times were just like, they are so oblivious to making space for others. And I'm seeing more and more of that, especially when I travel in airports, on planes. I think it's safe to say we all are pretty similar, no matter what culture we come from, no matter what our style is, that we just want to all be happy and live in a world where at least you can be kind to each other.
Absolutely. We have way more in common than we do differences. So I think all of these polarizations and fighting and me versus you, we're all, like you said, we're way more similar, and we all want the same fundamental things typically.
We do.
So that is just beautifully put. And I want the same thing as you. I want people to thrive in their work and lives. And I love the work you're doing with influence. I think it's such an important topic. And I can see the way that you answer questions, the way you've written your beautiful book, that you practice what you preach. So thank you, Stacey, for being amazing.
And thank you. Thanks again for trusting me to do this. It's so good to be a part of everything that you are so successful at on your end. And thanks for your work.
And I'm honored to be a fellow speaker of the National Speakers Association with you. And I look forward to sharing this episode widely and helping other people as they think about their influence. And I highly recommend your book. We'll put it in the show notes. We'll put Stacey's website in the show notes so that you can get the resources and stuff that she talked about today. And we wish everyone the best and stay well. Thank you for tuning in to Where Work Meets Life. If you found this content valuable, please rate, review, and share with others who may benefit. If you're struggling in your work life and need support, I offer coaching sessions. You can book a complimentary consult on my website. I'm also a passionate keynote speaker and would love to discuss your professional speaking needs. Visit my website, drlaura.live, to sign up for my monthly e-newsletter filled with tips and resources to help you stay well.